Alright, good morning everyone. Good morning, miss. So here I would like to be showing my understanding regarding the topic of children based literature for TEL. So here my name is Ciri Arta Guni with the name as provided on the screen. So let's move to the next screen. So here I have three subtopics that I will show in this explanation. The first one is introduction of children's literature for learning. The second one is the benefit of using literature for learning, and the third one is the types of children's literature. So next slide, I begin with the introductions. Children's literature can be viewed as literary work that can bring the good effect for learning, especially for a language learning, because it will lead a language becoming a basis for learning. So the example of children's literature can be found in our daily, in the school or in the library, such as novels, short story, comics, or even drama in the form of scripts. So the characteristic of children's literatures it is that the children's literature has a simple structures of grammatical rules, and also the simple word that can be easy to find in our daily life. So the children's literature is made for children in order to be able to understand, and student and young learners or children can follow the literature. So next, I'm going to talk about the good effects of children's literature. So the first one is language skills and emergency literature improvements. In this case, of course, when we are talking about children's literature, we can see that children will involve into several activities that belongs to maybe reading and writing, or even speaking and listening. When we are talking about literature work, we can enrich our knowledge, our vocabularies by reading so many literary work that provided the in the our daily or our community, so that student young learners will be learners and get improvement in the terms of language skill, and also even in the emergence literacy, because young learners will be happier, or will be happy uh, to read so that our young learners will be like to read and get literacy improvement. So the second one is reading and writing improvement. Yeah, of course, when we are uh, talking about literary work, the activity that involved is reading and also improve and writing. When we reading literary works, our reading skills will be improved, and young learners will be easier to understand in a further literacy work that they will read in the future. And for writing also, they can learn how to write a story based on the examples provided, appearing as a literary work, uh, and following the grammatical structures or the words they obtain they obtain in the literary work. So of course it will improve the reading skill and writing skill. or even in the speaking and listening. If the teacher can manage or construct the learning techniques that involves speaking and reading. For example, for speaking, maybe children can take a story or tell a story about their about that writing, or can tell the how the characters of a certain story, or their impression against the story that they read, or they can tell their experience regarding the reading activity of literary work. Either in the listening, maybe it can be done by uh, listen to the poetry, or in the video or movie drama, or and so on. And the third one is having fun activity. I think of course it will be fun if the literary work can be used as a medium for learning, because it provides interesting story, interesting stuff, uh, and the other, and it will encourage uh, students' motivation and attract their attention to be more reading and reading. So I think it also depends on teacher itself, and on how the teacher can motivate the student to be ready, to be like to be liking literary work, to be liking literacy, so that uh, young learners will be a good person to uh, in liking literary work. So of course it will be fun, because uh, literary work provide interesting story, and there's a lot of variation story, and a lot of unexpected plot in the certain story of literary work. So move to the next slide. So here we have types of children's literatures. So children's literature has a certain category. Uh, it can be both in the non-fiction or fiction categories. So according to Muhammad, in 27, there is several categories of literary work, children's literary works, that can be used to support our learning process. So the first type is traditional literatures. These literatures is involving history, beliefs, morals, values, and there are some works that also contain elements of magic. This traditional literature can be used because it will motivate. It will attract student attention, because it's provide somehow traditional literature can provide interesting plot, interesting history, and also it can have good morals, values that can help young learners to be a good person. So this traditional literature's work can be used by a teacher to in the implementation of literary work in the language learning process. So the second one, I have pictures book literature. This literature is viewed as having combination of text and illustrations that attract children's attention. So in this case, we can assume that this this literature types is the one who have illustration, so it will be interesting that and attracts young learners to be more reading because it's provide illustration, interesting illustration, and this young learner will encourage themselves to read more. The example of this literature can be found in the comic maybe or the in the book that have so many illustrations, especially the book uh, is that is made for children. So the third one, I have realistic fiction. This literature as is viewed as having stories in the real life that relate to children's adapting human characters in real life. So this kind of realistic fiction is related to our daily life that can be useful for young learners to be learned because it provide the knowledge of how to do things in the our daily. Uh, the example may be uh, in in the certain story there is also story that how that tell how to maybe how to cross the road uh, so children can learn from that to how to cross the road. And the other example is maybe there's a story that tell how to survive in the forest or anything like that, so maybe uh, young learners can be learned from that. So here I move to the next literatures is fantasy literatures. This literature are is constructed by imagination, creative mind of creators. So in this case, we can assume that this kind of literature can be found in the form of imaginative stories. So this will be fit for students because students are because young learners is known as people who are attract who are actively do imagination. So this will be good for young learners, and also this kind of story is having a good uh, story, good plot, interesting story, and so on. The example of this literary work is maybe relates to it. Maybe it relates to dragons or fairies and also wizard. So the next is poetry. Yeah, poetry is a kind of literature work that can be attracts can be attractive, can be interesting because this provide how to the read the sentence with the beautiful pronunciation, with the beautiful intonation. So maybe this kind of literary work that can motivate students to be able to read loudly, and young learners will be learned how to pronounce several words, and also maybe the young learners can catch the meaning, but it is recommended that teachers should give this kind of poetry that have humor rather than poetic works of literature. Alright, that's all about my presentation. So that's all about what I have already understood. So um, I I will say thank you for attention, and if there is a mistake, from the pronunciation or also grammatical rules, I think I will learn a lot by literature or maybe by some other that medium that can enrich my vocabulary and knowledge in English. So thank you.